Now I'm about to go into some common misconceptions about cults, but two scriptures I want to give real quick that are defining features defining scriptures as to why I am giving you this information. 1 John chapter 4 verse 1. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test them to see if they are of God. And in Acts chapter 17 verse 11, we are told that there were these people called the Bereans, and when they were told something, they searched the scriptures. That's what you need to do. Search the scriptures. Make sure that they are teaching you properly. Now, misconceptions about cults. And these misconceptions I'm getting off of HowCultsWork.com. This is an excellent resource. You definitely want to look at this. Yep. Misconception number 1. Cults are easy to spot. They wear strange clothes and live in communes. Well, some do, but most are everyday people like you and me. They live in houses. They wear the same clothes. They eat the same food. Cult leaders don't want you to know that you are being recruited into a cult, and so they order their recruiters to dress, talk, and act in a way that will put you at ease. One cult has even invented a phrase to describe this. They call it being relatable. Cults are misconception number 2. Cults are full of the weak, weird, and emotionally unstable. Not true. Many cult members are very intelligent, attractive, and skilled. The reality is that all sorts of people are involved in cults. One of the few common denominators is that they were often recruited at a low point in their life. More about that later. Number 3. Cults are just a bunch of religious nutcases. This is a common mistake people make, thinking that cults are purely religious groups. The modern definition of a mind control cult refers to all groups that use mind control and the devious recruiting techniques that this article exposes, the one I'm reading from. The belief system of a religion is often warped to become a container for these techniques. But it is the techniques themselves that make it a cult. In a free society, people can believe what they want. But most people would agree that it is wrong for anyone to try to trick and control people. In the section, Types of Cults, we will examine the various types of cults you may come across. Christians call all other groups cults. Basically, Christians have said, like Dr. R.C. Sproul and Tim Couch, who I read from in the previous video, that if a group claims to be Christian and yet teaches something fundamentally different from what the Bible teaches, then they are a cult. I.e., a Buddhist group that claims to be Buddhist is not a cult, but a Buddhist group that pretends to be Christian is. And this definition is not used in this article, the one from HowCultsWork.com. And see, this is why I like this article, because Dr. R.C. Sproul and Tim Couch have good definitions, but this article gives you more perspective and shows you that there's more than just the religious cults that claim a Christian base. That's why I'm reading to you off this article. And they make a very good point before that when they say that they use sophisticated mind control and recruit techniques that have been refined over time. You might say they're remarkably gifted manipulators, remarkably gifted at charm. And that's why it says they're wonderful on the outside, but on the inside they are very manipulating. They're desperate to trick you into joining the leaders, and they are after your obedience, your time, and your money. And this is an important point they make, and I alluded to this earlier. Beware of thinking that you are immune from cult involvement. The cults have millions of members around the world who once thought they were immune and still don't know they are in a cult. Yep. That's right. So, that alludes to what I said earlier. You can never be too careful, and you need to know what you're doing. So now there is, so now what is a cult? Most people agree with the definition of cults, tricking people into joining and coercing them into staying. The only ones who would disagree with this definition is the cults. But that's a no-brainer, of course. They want you to believe that they're the innocent party. But there are types of cults. We alluded to religious, and these are actually the most common one. But they do not all claim Christianity as their base. There are some that also claim Hinduism, Islam, or any other of the world religions as their base, or they may have invented their own belief system. Like the first one that I talked about that I got involved in, where I found out it was where I found out that they believe that hell is a state of mind and not an actual place. That was a non-denominational church. It was called Living Gospel Church in Pleasant Grove, and they're the nicest people, but they believe false doctrine, so gotta expose them. Anyways, and then there's other types of cults. Commercial, you might also call them business cults. They're basically using commercial gain as their base, and this article calls them cults of greed. I can agree with that. They will promise you that if you join them and follow their special... Watch out, Michael. Don't let the papers fly away. They will promise you that if you join them and follow their special program for success, then you will become very rich. Often they will hold up their leader as an example and explain that if you do what he or she says, then you will be successful too. Commercial cults use mind control to get you working for them for free and to make you pay for an endless stream of motivational tapes, videos, books, and seminars, all of which are supposedly designed to help you succeed, but in reality are designed to enhance the cult's mind control environment and keep you believing in their almost impossible dream of success. Of course, they never mention that the primary way the leaders make money are by selling these motivation materials to their group. Not most people outside the group, their group. For more information, see below under the section Pressure Selling. This goes into the different techniques that the cults use, and I'll go over those in a minute. Keep in mind, right now I'm reading from this article because it's so good. The next type is self-help and counseling. Cults that use self-help or counseling or self-improvement as their base often target business people and corporations. By doing their courses and seminars, they claim you and your staff will become more successful. Business people locked away in hotel rooms are subjected to quasi-religious indoctrination as they play strange games, join in group activities, and share their innermost thoughts with the group. Once you have completed one course, you are told you need to do the more advanced course, which naturally costs more than the last. These cults will sometimes request that you do volunteer work and that you help recruit your friends, family, and workmates. These groups specialize in creating powerful emotional experiences, which are then used to validate your involvement in the cult. The religious overtones are couched in terms which don't sound religious. They usually come to the surface as you near the end of a seminar, which ironically is after you've already spent your money. Go figure. Many people have been bankrupted by involvement with these cults. And then there's political. Cults that use political ideals as their base are well known throughout history. Hitler's Nazi Germany and Stalin's communist USSR were classic examples of mind control on a very large scale. On smaller scales, white and black supremacists, terrorists, and rebel groups commonly use forms of mind control to recruit and dominate their members. So that would be groups like Hamas, Al-Qaeda, what is it called? The Ku Klux Klan, and the neo-Nazis.
KKK.
The Ku Klux Klan, KKK for short. And then there's neo-Nazis, also known as skinheads. And I brought up these other types because God considers all areas of life important. Doctrine is important, but this other stuff is important too. Like in the Old Testament, the Jews were told to be led by God, who they picked for their leaders. Their leaders were to be led by God. And I know, these religious systems will claim that their leaders are led by God, but the way you know they're led by God is by backing them up with scripture. And hint, hint, if they can't handle questions from you, questioning what they tell you, and they resort to ad hominem attacks, they're not a real leader. They're not of God. Get out. And even today in the New Testament, we're told to pray for our leaders. And in the commercial ones, the Bible warns against getting rich quick. They say many have gone after getting rich quick and have pierced themselves with many sorrows. And this self-help and counseling with business, the Bible has principles on business too. And the most important ones are use honest scales. In Proverbs chapter 11 verse 1, they say that dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord. So, do you think these practices they're using here are pleasing to the Lord? Absolutely not. And then of course religious, well, you should already know why that's important. Doctrine is everything. So now that I have gone over the different types of cults, I will go over the techniques they use. The first one is mind control. Mind control is a suite of psychological techniques that cult leaders attempt to control their members with. Cult Watch does not consider mind control to be some magical device which can take away people's free will. In other words, it does not turn people into some sort of remote control robot. Rather, we see mind control as a dishonest influence placed covertly on cult members by the cults. Obviously, I agree with this article because I'm reading from it. So instead of mind control being some sort of irresistible force, like the aliens in the movies that take over people's minds, rather it is more like a gun. The cult leaders point the mind control gun at a member and say, if you leave us, then you will lose all of your friends and family. If you don't conform, then you will go to hell. If you don't give us money, then you will fail in business. We have broken mind control up into a series of techniques that the cults use. Together, these techniques make up mind control. Deception. A cult needs to recruit and operate using deception. Why? Because if people knew their true practices and beliefs beforehand, then they would not join. like earlier with the business cult and self-help cults and all those. People wouldn't join if they knew they only made their money by people that are already part of their thing in the first place. A cult needs to hide the truth from you until they think you are ready to accept it. In other words, after you've already gotten knee-deep into their group. For example, imagine if the leader of Heaven's Gate cult was open and honest about the group and had said to new recruits, "Join us, wear strange clothes, get castrated, and then drink poison." He would not have had many takers. A cult will have a slick, well-rehearsed public relations front, which hides what the group is really like. You will hear how they help the poor, or support research, or peace, or the environment. That's commonly what you hear about Mormons. They don't tell you about their more inside practices. I'm just giving an example. They will tell you how happy you will be in their group, and everyone in the group will always seem very happy and enthusiastic, mainly because they have been told to act happy and will get in trouble if they don't. But you will not be told what life is really like in the group. Sorry, I had to get that spider. In the group, nor what they really believe. These things will be introduced to you slowly, one at a time, so you will not notice the gradual change until eventually you are practicing and believing things which at the start would have caused you to run a mile. It's kind of like with the devil. He starts a little and then goes more and more. That's how his workers work. That's why the Bible says that these false workers manifest themselves as angels of light, and no wonder, for even Satan himself masquerades himself as an angel of light. I don't know what verse that is, and I'll post it later. Key point from this is no legitimate group needs to lie or mislead you about what they practice or believe. And I can agree with this, because most of the mainstream churches, they have belief states on the internet, and if they have websites. And if they don't, if you ask them questions, they will tell you straightforwardly, this is what you believe. You can agree or don't agree, but we're not going to change our beliefs. But the cults, they're more devious. And the second one's exclusivism. A normal religious organization would not have any trouble with you moving to another similar organization as long as you stayed in that same religion. Like, for instance, Baptist to Methodist, or Lutheran to Assembly of God. Yes, thank you. Because it is the belief system that matters, not membership in an organization. For example, if you were a Christian, then you can move from one church to another and still be a Christian. However, cult leaders will tell you can only be saved, or can only be successful with business ones, and their organization alone. Hold on, Michael. No other organization has the truth. All others miss the mark. So it is not the belief system that decides your future, but the belief system and your membership with that particular group. The cult leaders need to make you believe that there is nowhere else you can go and still be saved, and if you ever leave the one true church, then you are going to hell. This is a fear-based control mechanism designed to keep you in the cult. It also gives the cult leaders tremendous power over you. If you really believe that leaving the group equals leaving God, or means you are leaving your only chance to succeed in life, then you will obey the cult leaders even when you disagree with them, instead of risking being kicked out of the group. Exclusivism is used as a threat. It controls your behavior through fear. I'll go over the important notes and more in the next video.